It does not fall. It stretches, slow, unhurried, like a wool blanket being pulled over the wide shoulders of the earth. The horizon bleeds from gold to bruised violet, then into the soft, velvety black that the German children in the POW camp have never seen before. Back home, night is torn by distant fires, searchlights, and the thrum of bombers crawling across the sky. But here, in America, the darkness is whole, complete, almost gentle. A thin boy, no more than 14, presses his face to the wooden slats of the barracks window. His breath ghosts across the glass. His name is Emil Brandt, though the tag on his issued shirt only says B-42. His ribs cut against the fabric. His wrists look like twigs wrapped in paper skin. He blinks at the sky, confused by its peacefulness, as if waiting for something to shatter. Behind him, the barracks hum with quiet breathing, soft coughs, and the restless shuffling of boys caught between two worlds. Too young to be soldiers, too old to be children. A guard tower lamp sweeps across the yard. Emil flinches. Every German child does. Even after 3 months, the instinct still lives in them. The flinch of hunted things. He hears footsteps crunching along the gravel outside. American boots. Heavy, confident, unafraid. An older boy on the bunk below whispers sharply, "Back. They're coming for night rounds." His voice carries the gravel of someone who has lost too much too young. But Emil doesn't move from the window. Not until the door creaks open. 2 American MPs step inside. Their breaths plume in the cold. One is tall with a soft jaw and quiet eyes. Sergeant Miller, the only guard who ever smiles at them with something that looks unsettlingly like kindness. He carries a clipboard under his arm and a strange smell clinging to his uniform. Warm bread and something sweet and something smoky. The scent threads into the barracks like a promise. The boys sit up, sniffing like thin, starving ghosts. Miller pauses at the center of the room. His voice is gentle, but edges with firmness. "All right, boys, lights out in 5, big day tomorrow." The children stare back silently, their eyes, sunken, alert, animal, reflect the lamplight. From a top bunk near the back, a small voice, perhaps 10 years old, asks in hesitant English, "What is?" Big day. Miller shifts, tugging off his gloves. A holiday, 4th of July. There'll be food, games, you'll see. Food? The word hits like a thrown stone. Emil swallows. His stomach cramps. The last time he heard the word holiday, he was standing in the rubble of Dresden, picking through glass to find a potato half, buried in dust. Holidays in Germany tasted like smoke and fear. Here, holidays apparently smell like whatever is drifting from Miller's coat, the warm, meaty scent that makes the boys' mouths water in spite of themselves. When the guards leave, the children erupt into panicked whispers. "They're fattening us. Americans are tricking us. It's for propaganda. No, no, remember what the officer said. They feed prisoners before shipping them to forced labor. My cousin said the Americans make sausages from..." Stop. This voice is low, sharp, authoritative. It belongs to Clara Weiss, one of the oldest at 16. Her blonde hair is chopped unevenly, and her hollow cheeks give her the face of someone who has run out of childhood. She clutches a tiny notebook, the one thing she keeps hidden under her mattress, the one thing she refuses to surrender. She speaks again, softer. "No one is fattening us. They're just Americans. They do things differently. Differently." A boy scoffs. "Everything here is madness. He is not wrong. The camp is not what they expected. The Americans do not scream at them. They do not beat them. They do not starve them. The boys do not trust any of it." Emil returns to his bunk. His hands shake as he pulls the thin blanket over himself. The smell still lingers in the air. Bread, meat, something warm enough to hurt. He closes his eyes, but sleep is a fragile thing. Instead, the memories crawl in, the train ride across Germany, the shattered cities passing like skeletal remains, the mothers waving white sheets, the moment he and dozens of other children, orphans, camp followers, captured Hitler youth, were herded into American trucks. He remembers the hunger most, a hunger so sharp it made him dizzy, a hunger that hollowed out his bones and carved out his childhood. Tonight the hunger feels different, not painful, just curious. What do Americans eat on holidays? whispers a boy near the door. No one knows. Clara opens her notebook in the dark and scribbles a line he cannot see. Hope smells dangerous. Emil's stomach growls again. And somewhere outside, drifting over the camp fence from the nearby base kitchens, the smell of something he cannot name floats across the night. He will learn the word for it tomorrow. He will taste it tomorrow. He will tremble before he bites into it. Hot dog. But for now it is only a mystery suspended in the warm, drifting air. One that neither he nor any German child in this camp is prepared for. Not after the war they survived. Not after the lies they were told. And not after the things they still fear will happen in the dark. The train that carried them west had smelled of rust, wet wool, and old fear. Emil remembers the first hour of that journey with a clarity that borders on cruelty. How the German officer shouting orders had sounded exhausted rather than commanding. How the children shoved into the railcars looked more like shadows than soldiers. They were not real prisoners. They were fragments, refugee children swept behind retreating lines, abandoned Hitler Youth messengers, camp followers who had nowhere else to go. But the Americans didn't distinguish them. They gathered everyone. Inside the train car, the children huddled together, their bodies rattling with every turn of the wheels. The countryside flashed past through cracks in the boards. Flattened villages, blackened fields, forests stripped of bark by desperate hands searching for food. Someone said it felt like being transported to the moon. Someone else whispered it felt like being buried alive. Clara had pulled her notebook from her coat then too, writing by scraping what little graphite she had left. I do not know where we are going, but I know it is not home. Emil remembers reading those words over her shoulder by mistake. She had not pushed him away. She had simply closed the book and said softly, "Propaganda lies the loudest when it is frightened." At the time, he didn't understand her meaning. He does now. The journey had lasted days. Days without proper food, without warmth, with nothing but the shaking of the train to keep their hearts beating. They had been warned by German officers before capture about what awaited them. The Americans will hurt you. They will starve you. They will experiment on children. They will parade you like animals. Fear had seeped into their bones long before the train even moved. On the second night, a boy named Jonas, a thin, red-headed child with a peeling scab on his cheek, had pressed his face to the boards and whispered, "My father said the Americans feed prisoners to dogs." He said it as if announcing the weather, but his fingers dug so hard into his knees that his knuckles turned white. Another child, barely 8, whimpered in response. Another began praying. Another pulled his knees to his chest and started rocking. Emil listened quietly. He didn't dare speak. He had no father to quote. On the fourth day, when the train crossed into territory now held firmly by Americans, the landscape began to change. Not the devastation. There was still plenty of that, but the texture of the air. The silence felt different, less haunted, less hunted. It frightened them. Silence without gunfire felt unnatural. Clara whispered once, almost to herself, "What if they treat us well only to break us later? Kindness can be a weapon." Emil knew she didn't believe those words entirely. But she wrote them anyway. Her diary was where she placed her fear so the younger children wouldn't hear it trembling in her voice. When they were finally herded off the train, blinking at the harsh sunlight, the children expected the worst. German warnings clanged like iron bars in their heads, but instead of dogs, there were American trucks. Instead of whips, there were canteens. Instead of curses, there were clipped orders delivered without hatred. The children didn't understand it. One American soldier, young, freckled, holding a pack of gum, offered it to Jonas. Jonas stared at it as if it might explode. "Go on," the American said, his voice patient. "It's sweet candy." The German children froze. Candy in 1945, given freely. Jonas didn't eat it. None of them did. They were sure it was a trick. In the truck that carried them toward the port, the gum sat in Jonas's open palm, a small, rectangular miracle no one dared touch. That night, while the truck bounced through the ruins, one of the younger boys asked quietly, "What if they're taking us to America to show how weak we are?" Clara replied, steady and cold, "They already know how weak we are. They saw Germany." Emil chewed on her answer for hours, letting the words settle like a stone in his belly. When they boarded the ship that would carry them across the Atlantic, the German warnings grew even louder in their minds. They were told the Americans were barbarians. They were told the Americans ate like kings while the world starved. They were told the Americans would drown them at sea if they became inconvenient. None of it made sense. But fear rarely asks for logic. The Atlantic crossing was the strangest part of all. For the first time in years, the children slept without bombs. For the first time in years, they tasted broth with actual flavor. For the first time in years, they were given blankets thick enough to feel like protection. The sailors didn't speak to them often, but when they did, it was with a strange, almost unnerving gentleness. Too calm, too soft, too unthreatening for children conditioned to expect brutality. A boy named Rudy whispered one night, "Maybe the Americans don't hate us." And another shot back instantly, "That's what makes it worse." Emil understood that. Cruelty was predictable. Kindness was disorienting. Kindness felt like a trap. When the ship finally reached America, the children crowded the decks, staring at the coastline, green, bright, untouched by war, no ruins, no scars, no smoke rising from craters. It looked like a painting, a country that had not bled, and that was the moment, Emil would later write, that he realized something terrifying. If this is what the enemy lives like, then everything we were taught was a lie. But the true shock, one that would break something open inside every child here, was yet to come, a moment that would arrive with a single bite of something warm, something soft, something so absurdly simple it would haunt them for the rest of their lives. A hot dog. The trucks roll through the gates of the Oklahoma POW camp under a sky so wide it seems impossible. The children squint at the brightness. The sun here is different, rounder, harsher, cleaner. It doesn't filter through smoke the way it did back home. It pours over them like a flood. They grip the wooden benches of the truck bed as the vehicle turns sharply, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Emil sees the towers first. Simple wooden structures, nothing like the barbed monstrosities he imagined. He sees American guards leaning casually with rifles slung loosely, not pointed, not threatening. Almost bored, he doesn't trust it for a second. When the trucks stop, the American sergeant, Miller, motions for them to climb down. "Easy now," he says, "single file, no rush, no rush." Every command Emil has heard in the last 5 years was barked, shoved, screamed. The children stumble out, some flinching when Miller reaches to offer steadying hands. He doesn't grab them, he doesn't shove, he gestures, waits, patient as a country priest. A younger boy named Otto whispers, "Why are they being soft?" No one answers. They don't know. As they line up, an unexpected sound rises behind them. Laughter, real laughter. American soldiers tossing a ball back and forth, shouting friendly insults. Their voices are relaxed, easy, filled with a casualness the German children do not recognize. War has not touched this place, not really, not the way it touched them. A whistle blows. Miller raises his voice. "All right, kids, before we take you to barracks, you're getting checked, washed, and fed." Fed? The word lands heavily again, thick with suspicion. A girl in the line mutters under her breath, "Why would they feed enemies?" An older boy replies, trembling, "Because starving us would be too obvious." They hide cruelty. They cling to the logic they were taught. It is all they have left. Inside the examination building, the air smells of disinfectant and ironed cotton. A long table is set with folded clothes, fresh, clean, larger than any of them need. An American medic with kind eyes kneels to speak to the smallest children, his voice soft, almost apologetic. "We'll get you cleaned up first." Cleaned up. The phrase triggers something primal. Bathhouses in Germany meant delousing. Humiliation, sometimes beatings. Some of the children freeze in place, their breathing sharp and rapid. But the Americans don't strip them naked in front of each other. They hand them towels, private stalls. Soap, thick, white, heavy in the hand. It smells faintly of flowers. Emil holds his bar like it is a sacred relic, rubbing his thumb across its smooth surface again and again as if testing its reality. Clara whispers, "Look at it, it's real." She smells it, her eyes close, her face softens, then contorts. For a moment he thinks she might cry. Instead, she inhales sharply and mutters, "They wouldn't waste this on prisoners." But they do. Emil lathers his arms, his skin drinking the moisture like parched earth. The warm water stings at first, opening tiny cracks in dirt that hasn't fully washed off in months. It feels like peeling away a layer of war. He doesn't know whether to feel relief or terror. After cleaning, they are given new clothes, not uniforms, clothes. American denim trousers, soft cotton shirts, thick socks, no swastikas, no eagles, no hateful insignias weighing on their chests. The transformation is unsettling. They look like someone else's children now, children belonging to a world that had not collapsed. Then comes the moment. The smell hits them first, rich, savory, warm, with a sweetness woven through the smoke. Something cooking. The children stiffen. Their instincts flare. This is the moment the trap closes. Miller leads them toward a long picnic table behind the barracks, where American soldiers mill around casually, laughing, grilling something on a large iron plate. The children stare, hot dogs, plump, steaming, sizzling as they roll on the grill. Golden buns stacked nearby, mustard bottles, relish jars glistening in the sunlight. It looks like a feast for kings, and they are the ones being served. Line up, Miller calls, tone as cheerful as a neighbor inviting kids to a birthday party. Everybody gets one. One of those impossible. Jonas moves first, only because Miller places a warm, steady hand on his shoulder and gently guides him forward. The boy's lower lip trembles. He looks at the food as if it might bite him back. The American cook smiles, a wide, toothy grin. "Go on, buddy, best dogs in the whole state." Buddy, the word is almost too much. Jonas receives the first hot dog. Steam curls from the sausage. The bun is soft, slightly sweet. The scent is intoxicating. He stares at it. His hands shake violently. Miller kneels to his level. "You okay?" Jonas swallows. His voice is barely a whisper. Is it safe? That question breaks something in every soldier standing nearby. The cook's face falters. Miller's jaw tightens. A hush falls. Then Miller answers, voice thick. "Son, it's food, just food. It's for you." Jonas lifts the hot dog to his mouth as slowly as if he were defusing a bomb. He takes the tiniest bite, chews, stops, his eyes widen. He takes another bite, then another. Desperate, frantic, terrified it will vanish. Tears spill down his cheeks as he devours it. The other children stare, breathless. No collapse, no poison, no cruelty, just food, warm, abundant, freely given, a truth none of them are prepared for. Emil steps forward next. He receives his own hot dog. He holds it carefully, reverently, like something fragile. When he finally bites into it, the flavor explodes. Salty, smoky, rich. His throat tightens, his eyes burn. This is the first taste of a world without starvation, a world without war. And he has no idea what to do with it. Every morning in the Oklahoma camp arrives with a clarity none of the children expected. The sun rises cleanly, without the thunder of artillery or the distant rumble of collapsing buildings. Birds sing, actual birds, not the skeletal things that flitted through the ruins back home. The air smells of grass, dust, and something sweet drifting from the mess hall. Honey, they learn later. The first full day after the hot dog incident feels like stepping into someone else's life. Food, a shock that doesn't end breakfast, is the first betrayal. They file into the mess hall slowly, cautiously, expecting the warmth of the previous day to evaporate. Each child clutches their metal tray like a shield. They move in rigid silence, as if sudden movement might provoke the Americans into revealing their real intentions. But the Americans don't bark orders. They don't slap hands away. They don't weigh portions or shout accusations. They serve them food, real food, scrambled eggs, pale yellow and steaming, slices of toast with butter melting into the crust, thick oatmeal with cinnamon, a single bright orange. so fresh the skin glows like a sunrise in their hands. An orange, most of them have not seen one in years. A boy named Dieter stares at his orange for a full minute before whispering, "Is this?" Aloud, the American server laughs softly. "It's breakfast, kid." Dieter peels it with trembling fingers. Juice spills down his wrist. The scent hits him so violently he gasps. He chokes on his first bite, overwhelmed. When he eats the rest, he devours it like a starving animal. But his eyes shine with something dangerously close to wonder. Emil eats slowly, savoring everything, even the oatmeal he once would have pushed aside. He doesn't understand how there can be so much, how the Americans act as though nothing is scarce, as though the war hasn't touched them at all. Roman 2, dignity, the most unsettling gift after breakfast. The children are separated into work groups, not for punishment, but routine camp operations, gardening, laundry, simple maintenance, nothing harsh. Nothing degrading. The strangest thing is how the Americans address them. "Thank you, Emil. Good work, Clara. Jonas, careful with that hose, you'll drench yourself." Names, not numbers, not ranks. Not insults, names spoken kindly. At first, the children recoil from it. Respect feels like a trick. Kindness feels like a trap. Emil overhears two boys whispering near the water pump. "They're softening us, breaking us down. Why, we're already broken. That's why it works." Clara writes later in her diary, "They treat us like people. It frightens me more than hatred ever did. Because hatred makes sense, dignity does not." Roman 3, America, a country without scars. In the afternoons, they are taken on supervised walks around the outer edges of the camp. The fence is tall but not menacing. The towers watch but do not threaten. And beyond the boundaries, the children see something that jolts them to the core. Green fields, cattle grazing lazily, farmhouses with children running outside. Unbroken roofs, unafraid mothers hanging laundry, a world without fear, a world without ruins, a world where life continued. Emil stops walking more than once, staring at a tractor rolling softly across a field. Agriculture untouched, machinery intact, bright, painted barns standing strong against the horizon like monuments to normalcy. He whispers to Clara, "It didn't happen here." She nods slowly, eyes fixed on a white farmhouse. The war never reached their door, a painful truth. He feels as though he has stepped out of hell into a dream he cannot trust. Roman 4, gratitude vs. guilt. Night is the hardest. After evening roll call and a dinner of roasted chicken, potatoes, and a dessert none of them have tasted since childhood apple pie, they retreat to their barracks. The scent of cinnamon lingers on their hands. The abundance weighs heavier than hunger ever did. Some children cry silently. Others mutter prayers of gratitude or guilt or both. Jonas lies in his bunk staring at the rafters. He whispers to Emil, voice thick, "My mother is starving, and I am eating like a king." Emil cannot answer. He thinks of his sister, Lot, her face thin as parchment. He imagines her searching through rubble for food while he sits in a warm room with clean sheets and a stomach full of pie. The guilt scorches him from the inside. Clara writes late into the night. Her pen scratches furiously across the paper. How can comfort hurt so much? How can food feel like betrayal? How can kindness feel like accusation? Her words hang in the air long after she closes the notebook. The younger children sleep easily, the older ones do not. They lie awake, wrestling with the cruelest revelation yet. The Americans are not monsters. The Americans are not starving. The Americans are not suffering. And that means everything they were taught was wrong. Propaganda collapses quietly, not with a shout, but with a hot dog, an orange, a clean bed, a soft voice saying their names. The truth comes not in thunder, but in warmth. And warmth is the most disarming weapon they've ever known. The days begin to blend into one another, not because nothing happens, but because everything that happens feels unreal. Every morning brings food. Every afternoon brings routine. Every evening brings safety. It is too much. It is too strange. It is too kind. And kindness, they are discovering, is far more dangerous than cruelty. Letters from home, the much harder truth. The first letter arrives on a Wednesday, slipped quietly into Emil's hands by Sergeant Miller after roll call. The envelope is thin, dirty, smudged with soot as if it traveled through a dying world. The script on the front is unmistakable. Lot Brandt. Emil's breath leaves him in a sharp, painful exhale. He steps behind the barracks to read it, seeking the small patch of shade beneath a mesquite tree. The air hums with cicadas. The world feels too warm, too alive, too indifferent to suffering. The letter trembles in his hands as he unfolds it. Dearest Emil, I am alive. Mama is gone. The house is gone. But I am alive. The words hit him like a blow. He reads on, eyes burning. I heard you are in America. People say the prisoners there eat bread every day. Is that true? Do not feel guilty. If one of us must eat, let it be you. Come home when you can. I will be waiting. Your lot. The letter is too short, too honest, too full of starving hope. Emil presses it to his chest, sliding down the tree trunk until he sits in the dust. He tries to cry, but nothing comes out, only a hollow, aching sound. When he returns to the barracks, his new shirt still clutched in one fist, Jonas sees his face and asks gently, "Bad news?" Emil shakes his head. "Worse, it was good news." Jonas nods. He understands. Good news means someone is still suffering while you are being fed. Across the room, Clara receives her own letter an hour later. She reads it with steady, stoic eyes, but her knuckles whiten until the paper nearly tears. Afterward, she writes a single line in her diary: "The world outside is dying, and we are living like ghosts who stole someone else's life." Roman 2. Propaganda falling apart one small kindness at a time. It is the smallest things that undo them. A guard holding a door open, a cook telling a joke, a nurse adjusting a child's collar before inspection. None of these are acts of war. None match the stories Germany fed its youth. Clara watches an American soldier kneel to tie little Otto's shoe and feels something inside her split open. She was taught Americans were beasts, greedy and vulgar. But the soldier's hands move gently, carefully, with the ease of someone who has tied hundreds of children's shoes before. Otto's face shines with shy gratitude. Clara looks away, jaw tightening. Later that night, she whispers to Emil, "Nothing makes sense anymore." He nods. "Because they're not who we were told. That's the problem." She snaps softly. "If they had been cruel, everything would still make sense. But this..." She gestures to the camp, the warmth, the stability, the ease. This is the worst kind of attack. Emil frowns. Kindness isn't an attack. She turns to him, eyes hollow. It destroys what we believed. It erases who we thought we were fighting. It makes us wrong. The word tastes poisonous on her tongue. Wrong, misled, used. The propaganda that once gave them certainty now clings like a suffocating shadow. And the light, this American light, is burning it away. Roman 3. Identity shattering in the quiet hours as days pass. The children begin having dreams, not nightmares. Those they know well, know. These dreams are stranger, softer. Dreams of running through green fields. Dreams of eating without ration cards. Dreams where American voices call them by name. Dreams where the sky isn't afraid. They wake from these dreams disoriented, ashamed, shaken. One evening, Jonas confesses while sitting with Emil under the barracks window. "I dreamed I was American." He says it like a sin. Emil swallows. "I've had dreams like that too." Jonas's eyes widen in horror and relief. Neither knows what it means, neither wants to accept it. The identity carved into them through years of slogans, drills, salutes, and fear is being eroded grain by grain. Not by force, not by interrogation, not by punishment, but by normalcy, by safety, by food, by the unbearable softness of a world without war. Roman 4. Kindness as wartime torture. What neither child can say aloud is this: the greatest cruelty is being treated decently by the enemy. Cruelty would validate everything they were taught. Kindness dismantles it. Every warm meal, every soft word, every gesture of respect is a blow to the ideology that shaped them. One night, Clara breaks. She sits on a bunk, hands shaking, her diary open on her knees. "I don't know who I am anymore." She whispers, not to anyone, not even to herself. "If they are good, then what does that make us? What does that make what we did?" Her voice cracks. The world cannot be this upside down, but it is. And the children feel themselves standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying, a truth that will change them forever. Years pass before the children, now adults, scattered across cities, stitched back together with new roofs and old memories, can fully understand what happened to them in that American camp. They grow taller, their faces lengthen, their voices deepen, but some part of them remains frozen in that moment. The first bite of a hot dog, the steam rising from soft bread, the sharp tang of mustard they couldn't pronounce. Memory is strange like that. It chooses its anchors carefully. A flavor can hold an entire life. For Lucas, now 25 and living in a rebuilt Dresden, the memory returns in small flashes. When he stands in a bakery, breathing in the aroma of fresh rolls. When he catches the scent of fried onions from a street cart. When he hears the crackle of something grilling over open flame. Sometimes unbidden, he murmurs warm, soft, sweet, safe. The four sensations that followed that first American meal like four loyal shadows. But with the memories comes something deeper, quieter, a question he still can't answer. Why had the enemy fed him? Why had kindness felt more dangerous than cruelty? A letter found in an attic chest, Greta discovers her old diary by accident. It's buried beneath winter clothes and broken toys in the attic of her childhood home. A home that no longer matches the one in her memory, a different door, a different window. The world rebuilt itself without asking her permission. The diary's cover is frayed, its pages faintly yellowed. When she touches it, her fingertips tremble as if brushing something sacred. She sits by the attic window, dust swirling in beams of light, and opens the diary to a random page. Today we were given fruit, a peach. I have never tasted anything like it. It was like eating a small sun. Greta closes her eyes, the phantom sweetness blooming in her mouth. She reads further. They told us today we might go home, but I don't know if home wants us, or if we can fit inside our old lives anymore. Her breath catches. She flips ahead. I do not understand America. I do not understand kindness, but I understand hunger, and they never let us feel hungry. A tear slips down her cheek and lands on the ink, new water merging with old. She whispers to the empty room, "Thank you, whoever you were. Thank you." She presses the diary to her chest, as if to keep the child she once was from drifting away. Emil's shadowed return. Emil carries the experience differently. He returns to a town where half the buildings are gone and half the faces are new. People whisper about the war, about betrayal, about who served where and who survived how. He walks through the streets with the posture of someone who expects stones or silence. He never speaks of America, not at first, not for years, but late at night when he drinks with the men from the factory and the conversation inevitably turns toward what they lost. He listens quietly. And when one man spits that the Americans were monsters, Emil's jaw tightens. He doesn't rise, he doesn't argue. But later, when he walks home alone, boots crunching on gravel, he whispers into the night, "You were wrong, they treated us like people." The admission feels like treason. But it also feels like truth. In time, he learns to live with both. The unexpected visitor. It happens 20 years later, 1965, a warm summer afternoon. At a small post office in Bavaria, Greta receives a letter addressed in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside is a short note written in careful German. "Dear Greta Weiss, if this letter reaches the right person, then perhaps you were once a child in my care." Her breath stops. She sits down. The world narrows to the size of the page. "My name is John Harris. I was a lieutenant at the camp where you and other children were held. I often wondered what became of all of you." Greta's eyes sting. "I hope your life has been full and that you have known peace. If you ever wish to write back, I would be honored to hear from you." Her hands shake so violently she can barely fold the letter. She writes back that same night. She tells him she kept the diary. She tells him she remembers the hot dog. She tells him that kindness confused her, frightened her, healed her. She tells him that she is grateful. The letter takes weeks to reach him. His reply takes weeks to return. But the connection, quiet, fragile, human, becomes a small, steady bridge between past and present. The reunion under an open sky 35 years later, a small group of former POW children gather in a meadow overlooking a quiet river. They have arranged this meeting themselves, traveling from different corners of Germany. Some are grandparents now, some move slowly, leaning on canes. Some carry the war only in their eyes, the way old trees carry the memory of storms. They sit together on blankets, sharing stories. Some painful, some absurd, some so quiet they break your heart in half. And eventually, because memory is a circle, they start speaking not of ruins, not of loss, but of that day, the smell. Lucas says softly, "I can still smell it." The warmth of the bread, Greta adds. The way the Americans laughed when we didn't know how to hold it, another man says, smiling. They laugh, gently, wistfully, like people recalling a dream they once believed they imagined. And then someone brings out a small charcoal grill. Someone else brings buns, mustard, and a pack of American-style hot dogs. They cook together, the scent rising into the air, drifting over the meadow like a memory returned to life. When they bite into them, some close their eyes. Not because of the flavor, but because of what it unlocked, a moment where the world was divided between fear and kindness won. The final reflection, the war shaped them. The ruins defined their childhood. But the hot dog, the simple, ordinary, ridiculous American hot dog, became something else entirely, a proof of humanity, a contradiction to everything they were told, a taste that rewrote a piece of their souls. They were children taught to fear, children taught to hate, children taught that the enemy would destroy them, but instead, the enemy fed them. And that act, as small as a bite of warm bread, echoed through their entire lives, reminding them that even in the darkest chapters of history, someone, somewhere, chose to be kind.